Karin Hurt is CEO of Let's Grow Leaders. She's a keynote speaker, a leadership consultant, and an MBA professor. A former Verizon Wireless executive, she has over 2 decades of experience in sales, customer service, and HR. She was recently named on Inc.'s list of 100 great leadership speakers, AMA's 50 Leaders to Watch in 2015, and top thought leader in Trust by Trust Across America. Her next book, Winning Well, A Manager's Guide to Getting Results Without Losing Your Soul, is being published by Amicom in April 2015. Welcome, Karin. How are you today?
I'm terrific. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I love this without losing your soul because that's that's an accomplishment. So I think that's wonderful because we do need leaders who can get results and who don't lose their soul, because it seems like everybody is more harried and hassled than ever before in corporate America. So let's ask you the very first important question. Why did you leave a successful career at Verizon Wireless to start Let's Grow Leaders?
Yeah, so it was not, it didn't start out as my intention. So it was interesting how it all evolved. My last job at Verizon, I was leading our strategic partnership channel, which was all of our outsourced call centers. And I had been brought in to really turn that channel around. And so what had happened there was we had ramped up very fast for the first iPhone when Verizon first started selling the iPhone, because it had been exclusive to AT&T for so long. And so because of that fast ramp, the quality was quite low, and so they needed somebody to come in and turn it around. So I did that. And as I was working with all these other companies, I realized that one of the most important things they needed was stronger leadership at the frontline level. So I began writing a leadership blog to help not only my team who is out working in these call centers, but also to help the leadership in these 30 call centers all around the country. And what I did not expect was that blog would really take off and gain an international following pretty quickly. And I realized how transferable these skills really were. After 20 years at Verizon, I was thinking that would be my career. But I found that I started getting calls to come speak, calls to do consulting, and of course that would have been a conflict of interest for me to go do any of that. So I really thought about it long and hard, and I said, this is a lot of fun, but it's an unsustainable model. I can't continue to do this executive job and to grow this, this side thing that I'm doing. I'm going to go follow my heart and do this. And so I gave 4 months' notice. I wanted to make sure everything stayed, all the momentum was going in the right direction. And I walked away from, golden handcuffs and all of that and took the leap. But I haven't looked back. I've been very, very pleased.
Well, I was just going to ask you what was the most difficult part of the transition, because many people who go from an executive position to entrepreneurialism, they just don't realize how hard it is. And where they had a staff who could do various things, now it's them. And as they grow, they can hire people. And today, of course, you can have virtual assistants and all kinds of contracted people, but it's still a shock to the system. And there are no more paid benefits, and there's no more vacations, and no more health insurance. So tell us about your journey from executive to entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I would say the hardest part has been dealing with the angst of the highs and lows. So, just emotionally, everything will be going great, and I'll have a lot of work coming in and a lot of speeches, and then all of a sudden there will be nothing. and then I have to just kind of get to breathe through that, knowing that it's going to come back again, because it just seems to go in seasons and cycles. And I think just getting used to that and not panicking has been the hardest part for me. But now that I've been up and down the wave a few times, it's getting easier. And then I would say the other hard part is, you're right. I mean, I had an enormous staff of people. I've had an executive assistant for the last 15 years of my career. And so getting used to really managing my own calendar, booking, that has been quite a shock to the system as well. But I have found I have built a lot of great contract relationships, so that's really been able to help my business scale. I've worked with a company to put together some online multimedia training that I'm just delighted with. Includes the 360 assessment, all kinds of things. But I wouldn't have been able to pull that off technically by myself. So I think you need to bring in people strategically to support you to complement your skill set.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I mean, I'm not a very technically competent person, and yeah, definitely I know how important that part of everything is. So I can testify to that. So, uh, how are you looking to make a difference in the world?
I am really I'm on a mission to show people that you can achieve breakthrough results and without really crushing your team or leading with some of the negative leadership behaviors that we see so rampant in corporations. I really believe it's an and, not an or, and I'm trying to help encourage people to have the courage to lead from a more humane place and the courage to envision results better than they thought was ever possible and to really go after those. And so what I'm really doing is breaking it down in very tactical, practical ways how you do that. So my upcoming book does that. My online course does that. When I do my consulting, I do that. And then it's funny when people hear my keynote speeches, they say, wow, you really told us how to do it. You didn't just pump us up. You really gave us some practical advice we can go back and implement immediately. And that's my mission, to really teach people how.
Well, that's exactly what you should be doing. I mean, you've got the experience for it, and you've got the philosophy for it, and your books. I mean, your first book is Overcoming an Imperfect Boss, which I adore because I think, many people get to be a boss without any real training. And
Yeah.
so they don't know how to be a boss. And if indeed they've had the training, and if indeed they've gone through the ranks themselves, sometimes they forget, where they've been and what they've gone through. And now I can't wait to see what's happening with your Guide to Getting Results, a Manager's Guide to Getting Results Without Losing Your Soul. So, I guess one of the things that you just mentioned was this media training that you're going to be doing, this multimedia course.
Yeah.
And it's, 7 roles every manager must master.
Yeah.
So I assume this is designed for new managers, or do you think it's something that would be valuable to people who have led for a while? And are there things that are out there like this? Because a lot of e-learning programs are coming up right now. And how is yours different?
Yeah, so let me answer your first question. I believe this course is really valuable for someone who has been leading for some period of time, not necessarily brand new. I think you need to have had a little bit of experience. So either a frontline leader with some experience or a middle manager would really be applicable in either one of those circumstances. The idea behind it is, and what makes it really unique, I haven't seen another program like this, there may be, but I haven't stumbled across it, where you begin, it's really a hybrid model. So you begin by taking a self-assessment against these 7 roles. And so, just to give you a flavor for some of them, the first one is translator. How do you translate the company vision into, real work and real ideas that people can understand? The next is, the connector. How do you connect the team together and all the integrated work that they're doing? And then a builder is how do you build on the skill set? So there's 7 roles like that. And then, so we talk about, you do the assessment, then I begin with my confident humility model, because I'm all about that. You got to lead with inspired confidence and really have bold vision, but you also need to be humble and listening to people and realizing it's about something bigger than you. So we go through that, and then we go through 7 modules. In each module, you learn specific skills. You see a video, either a video of me, which I tell some of the stories that I tell in my keynote speeches, or I have some actors doing videos that are kind of cute and funny, just to keep it very upbeat and engaging. And then after you practice these skills, you then go out and you facilitate a module with your team. So you have a specific exercise that you're working with on your team, and it's about the work that they're doing. So the team is growing along with you, and so it takes what was online back out into the field. And then you can interact with me and other participants in an online forum talking about how it's going. And also, at the end of it all, you do a 360-degree feedback assessment that's specifically designed around these 7 roles and the confidence humility model. So it comes full circle.
Wow, that's great. I want to ask you, now that you're in a consultative role, do you see differences in how people respond to authority today, respond to instruction, and do you see a difference in how managers lead today?
It really varies by company. That's one of the most fun parts about coming out and working across industries. I'm working with some more startup companies, and then I'm working with some big international corporations. And so it's been fun to watch the different cultures. But what I do see is that people really want to be involved in the decision making. They want to have more autonomy in their work. They do not want to, I call it the bot syndrome. They don't want to be treated like robots. They don't want to be handed scripts or do it this way. They want to be able to bring more of their whole selves to work. And so when you have leaders that can tap into that and inspire that, that's where I'm seeing the real difference in results, where people can really pull out the best of people.
So another question, I don't know if you deal with this or not, but it certainly comes up in a lot of things that I work with. The 3 generations in the workforce today, the millennials, the boomers, the Gen Xers. Do you see a lot of conflict there?
It's one of the biggest business problems that people bring to me. It's funny, I was just doing a workshop with some CEOs across a whole variety of manufacturers, and this man who would have been a boomer was sitting next to me at dinner, and he said, well, we don't have any employee engagement problems at all. And I said, well, that's fantastic. Tell me about your business. And he says, well, I'm old school, and I just tell them what to do, and if they don't like it, then I tell them to leave. And I thought,
well, that's one way to solve it.
well, yeah. And so, to me, clearly, he'd been leading that way his whole life. But what was scary and he said, and these darn millennials, well, they just want to, they're lazy. They want to come in late. And he had all these things. And I thought, he definitely has an employee engagement problem, right? And so, and he has a generational problem. And what he's missing is the hearts and minds and all the creativity that could be coming from a non-old school mindset, but he's shutting it down and he's saying, conform or leave. And so to me, that is really typical of what I see in some of these conflicts, where it's really a stylistic difference. It's not a work ethic difference. And so it's a matter of getting people to talk about what do they really want and need in their work, what are they coming up with shared goals, and then figuring out how they can work together and in a way that feels comfortable for everyone, but to really accomplish something tremendous. And if you can get past the how are we going to do it and start with what are we going to do and why are we going to do it, and then work together to figure out how, that can make a big difference. Another conflict I'm seeing.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm just thinking when you were talking about that doesn't a lot of that come into the hiring process? I mean, don't you know who you're getting when you hire them if you do an interview properly? And if there are requirements like it or not, you're going to be in at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Like it or not, there are days you're going to have to stay after 5 o'clock. I mean, either you agree to that and accept the position, or you say, no, this is not my cup of tea and not my company, or do you think people just ignore it and figure, oh, I'll figure it out when I get there?
Yeah, I think that in most cases, people are not going to say, oh, of course I'll be in at 9, right? I mean, you're not going to say you're not in an interview. So I would say if you've got millennials that are listening or anyone who's listening and say, you need to be real clear in your own mind about what is the right work environment for you. Because if you really feel adamant about something, then don't join a company that is run in an old school way. And thinking you're going to be able to come in and ignore the rules is not really a good way to start.
And let me ask you, was this gentleman an owner of the company?